let's talk about the Chauvet LED Followspot 75ST. Now, I've had this Followspot for what seems like forever. I mean, 5, maybe 6 years. I think I bought it shortly after it came out. But, you know, right off the bat, I'll just say I do recommend this Followspot for small to medium-sized venues. It does have a few quirks. I'll go through the quirks here in a minute. But, you know, it's not bright enough for an arena. We did production for Theory of a Dead Man, and their tech writer required one Followspot. And it was a you know, a smaller show. I'm going to say maybe 2,000, 2,500 people, somewhere around there. So I thought, you know, maybe I could get away with using this. We don't have the big old school Followspots, and I didn't want to have to rent one for the show. So I thought, well, I'll try to use this thing. And if you are 100 to 125 feet away from the stage, it's not bright enough. And I don't think it's long enough to really focus the beam tighter for a long throw application. This is definitely more for short to medium throw. So bar, small to medium sized theater, you know, a comedy show, anything where the throw might be up to about 50 feet away from the stage is probably good with this thing. It does have, it's a white LED, but there are gels, which is nice. Just going through the back panel here, one of the quirks I will say is there's a shutter, blackout and on. I have run into an issue with this where occasionally I'll hit blackout, and when I go to hit on, it doesn't turn back on, and I wind up having to power cycle it. So I actually don't use the shutter at all. Just one of the little quirks I was talking about. What I use is the dimmer. And I actually kind of like that instead of the, you know, instant off, instant on anyways. Because if you know, want to turn the Followspot off, you just hold min down and it just nicely fades out. You go to turn it back on, nicely fades up. So I do like using that. You know, the shutter is just a weird quirk, and maybe that's just with my model. Other models might not do that, but with mine it acts a little funky. I have not used DMX with this. You know, personally, if I was going to mount this in a ceiling for a spotlight and control it with DMX, I probably would not buy this. I would probably buy an ellipsoidal, but you know, it might be nice that it's there. One of the other quirks, this shutter here. Mine moves not that good, and you might not even be able to see it in the camera here. I might have the camera up too high, but maybe we'll go like that. There we go. The knob that goes back and forth. We don't use this a whole lot, but I've used it enough to where when I'm operating it and I'm using the shutter, I actually pulled it this way and snapped the handle right off. So you'll see mine's got some weird play in it, and that's because the handle is separate from kind of this disc that spins internally, and it's riveted on there, and I snapped the rivet. The rivet's really small and kind of fragile, so you don't want to just grab onto this and yank it over quick to close it, because you do run the risk of snapping it off like I did. I actually just popped the rivet out, took some heavy-duty wire and wrapped around it and kind of crimped it back together. It leaves it loose, but it still works. The shutter's not my favorite anyways. A lot of times I would just use it to make the circle smaller, because when you go to close it, it doesn't fully close. You'll see it scale down and it'll leave a little pin spot. And that's one of the other things I don't really like about it is you go to close the shutter, I would like it to just fully close and black out. And I definitely would prefer doing that even, you know, beyond the dimmer buttons. You know, if I need it to close, just close it, open it back up. But with the pin spot, if I go to close it, it leaves a little dot on the stage unless I pop it up into the ceiling and then go to open it back up like that. And Not a huge fan of that, but one of the little quirks. The focusing works pretty good. I have no real problems with that. This also doubles as a Gobo projector, so probably half the time that we've used it ourselves, I've just used it as a Gobo projector. So if you're adding it to your rental inventory, it's good to not only have it on your site as a Followspot, but also as a Gobo projector. To get to the Gobo, you have to take this handle off, unscrew this, and then there's a little sleeve inside. And one thing I actually had to call tech support about when I first got this is a lot of times in shipping, the insert that the Gobo goes in, it'll wiggle loose a little bit. So if you first fire this up after buying it and notice that you don't have a nice crisp circle, but like the top and the bottom are a little fuzzy and they just don't seem to get fixed, it might be that your Gobo insert got moved a little bit. So if you take this off and just push it back in and make sure it's firmly seated, that'll probably fix your issue. I had to call tech support and they instantly knew the problem right off the bat. So I'm thinking I'm not the only one that had to call for that. The tripod that I have this on right now, you can see it's about head height. This is not the tripod that comes with it. The tripod that comes with it is very short and will only maybe put it up to about this height. So the tripod that comes with it is pretty much pointless. I don't even know why they ship it with that. You know, get a standard light tree. I always tell people when I rent this out, raise it up if you're on ground level, raise it up as high as you can. Have somebody stand on a chair and hold it up high. You don't want to be, you know, straight up just blasting people in the face with a spotlight that might be between you and the stage. Other than that, you know, I feel like those are the main quirks. I don't have a whole lot to say about this. It's been pretty reliable. We don't use it all the time. It's in our rental inventory, and we rent it out maybe 10 to 15 times a year. We use it ourselves, maybe another half a dozen. You know, it's almost to the point where it's really not worth having, but we use it enough to where it doesn't make sense to get rid of it now that we have it. So if you're in the market for a smaller Followspot, you want it LED, super simple, you know, this is definitely the Followspot to get. They do make a brighter version of it now that I think is 150 watts. I haven't had a chance to use that. If I was buying a new one today, I probably would get the brighter version, but the downside about the brighter version, from what I've heard, I haven't used it, but I do know somebody that has one, they say it does not have the ability to put a Gobo in. So you lose the multi-function capabilities of the 150 watt version. So if you know you're going to be in a smaller venue and you want to be multi-purpose, definitely stick with this one. If you think you're going to be in a little bit bigger venue, get the little bit brighter one. And maybe the brighter one doesn't have the amount of quirks that this one has. But it's manageable. There aren't too many of these on the market. So if you're in the market for one, definitely go with the Chauvet LED Followspot 75ST. And I also recommend, it comes with a very short IEC power cord. Now if you use the one that comes here, it's going to hang down about halfway, and that's where your extension cord is going to be. I actually bought a 25-foot IEC for this, so I didn't have to worry about spinning it, turning it, and unplugging it. You know, if you don't do that, you can always kind of do one of those tie knot with the extension cord to, you know, cinch the two together. But I spent some money. I bought the longer IEC and plug it right into the wall, and that way if it catches on something, I don't have to worry about it, you know, ripping the power out. Oh, I also should say there's no real nice swivel on this thing. You know, it's just a standard cup mount. So if you decide to tighten it up on there, you know, you're not going to be able to spin it. It's going to be locked. So you do have to leave this pretty loose on here so that you are able to spin it. And of course you don't have to have the cup mount on. You can take this off and use a clamp and hang it. But once again, I don't see the point in hanging this light. If you're buying a Followspot, you know, it's made to be swiveled around and used manually. If you have any questions about this, throw it down in the comments section. Otherwise, until next time, have a good day.